This morning, millions of people poured milk into their coffee, over their cereal, or just drank a cold glass of it. Nobody thought twice. But your body did. Because for the vast majority of humans alive right now, milk is technically a poison. Not metaphorically, biochemically. About 65% of the global population cannot properly digest lactose, the sugar found in milk, after childhood. That's not a disorder. That's the default. That's how human beings are supposed to work. Every mammal on Earth drinks milk as an infant. Every single one. And then they stop. Their bodies shut down the enzyme that digests it, and they never touch it again. That's the rule. That's how it works for cats, dogs, whales, elephants, every primate that ever lived, including us. For the first 300,000 years of human existence, every adult on the planet was lactose intolerant. All of them. Drinking milk past infancy would have made you bloated, cramping, and sick. And nobody did it because why would you? Then, roughly 7,500 years ago, something changed. A single genetic mutation appeared in a population of cattle herders in what is now Hungary and Central Europe. One mutation in one group, and it rewired human history. The mutation was simple. It kept the gene for lactase, the enzyme that breaks down lactose, switched on past childhood. Normally, that gene shuts off between ages 2 and 5. Your body expects you to stop nursing, so it stops making the tool you need to digest milk. But in this group, the gene never turned off. They could drink milk their entire lives. And here's what happened next. In 2007, a team led by geneticist Joachim Berger at the University of Mainz analyzed ancient DNA from Neolithic farming sites across Europe. They found that the lactase persistence gene, the one that lets adults digest milk, was nearly absent in European populations 8,000 years ago. Almost nobody had it. But by 3,000 years ago, it had spread to over 80% of Northern Europeans. That's one of the fastest genetic sweeps ever recorded in the human genome. Faster than skin color adaptation, faster than altitude tolerance, faster than almost anything else. Think about what that means. The mutation spread so fast because the people who had it survived at dramatically higher rates than the people who didn't. This wasn't a convenience. This was life and death. And the reason is brutal. Milk is a survival machine. 1 liter of whole milk contains roughly 600 calories, along with fat, protein, calcium, and water. In a world where famine could wipe out your entire village in a single bad harvest, having access to a renewable source of dense calories, one that walked around on 4 legs and didn't need to be killed to provide food, was an almost unfair advantage. You didn't have to slaughter your cow, you could just milk it. Every day. All year. In 2014, evolutionary geneticist Mark Thomas at University College London published a study in the journal Nature Genetics that modeled how powerful this advantage actually was. His team found that in certain periods of European prehistory, people who could digest milk had up to a 19% greater reproductive fitness than those who couldn't. 19%. In evolutionary terms, that's enormous. That's the kind of advantage that doesn't just spread, it dominates. But here's where it gets strange. This didn't happen once, it happened multiple times, independently. In East Africa, among pastoralists from groups like the Maasai and the Tutsi, a completely different mutation arose that does the same thing, keeps lactase production active into adulthood. Different gene variant, same result, same pressure. In the Arabian Peninsula, another variant. In parts of South Asia, yet another. At least 5 separate mutations across different populations on different continents all converged on the same solution. Drink milk, survive. Evolutionary biologists call this convergent evolution. When the same trait evolves independently in unrelated populations, it tells you the selection pressure was enormous. The advantage of digesting milk was so powerful that human DNA found the answer 5 different times. But here's the part that most people miss. The 65% of humanity that can't digest milk? They're not broken. They're original. They're running the software humans were always supposed to run. It's the milk drinkers who are the mutants. the ones whose bodies do something no adult mammal was ever designed to do. And that mutation is recent, incredibly recent. 7,500 years is nothing in evolutionary time. If the entire history of Homo sapiens were a 24-hour clock, lactase persistence appeared at 11:56 p.m., 4 minutes ago. And yet, we built entire civilizations around it. The European pastoral economy, the cattle-based cultures of East Africa, the dairy traditions of South Asia, cheese, butter, yogurt, cream, all of it exists because of a handful of mutations that let some humans break the mammalian rule. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because the global dairy industry is worth over $800 billion a year, and it's been marketed for decades as though milk is universally essential. Milk does a body good. Got milk? You grew up being told you needed milk for strong bones, but that message was built on the biology of a genetic minority. In 2014, a large-scale study published in the British Medical Journal tracked over 100,000 people in Sweden for 20 years. The results were not what anyone expected. They found that high milk consumption was associated with higher rates of bone fractures in women, not lower, and higher rates of mortality in both men and women. The researchers were careful to note that correlation isn't causation, but the idea that milk automatically equals strong bones took a serious hit. Meanwhile, populations that traditionally consumed little or no dairy across much of Asia, West Africa, and indigenous communities worldwide have lower rates of osteoporosis than many heavy dairy-consuming Western nations. The calcium in milk is real, but the assumption that you need milk to get calcium is not. And then there's the weirdest part of all this, the one nobody talks about. We're the only species on Earth that drinks the milk of another species. Think about that. You are drinking a fluid that a cow produced to turn a 60-pound calf into a 1,500-pound animal. The hormonal composition, the growth factors, the protein ratios, none of it was designed for you. It was designed for a baby cow, and we just took it. We domesticated an animal, hooked ourselves into its lactation cycle, and built an entire food system around it. No other species has ever done anything even remotely like this. Anthropologists point out that the relationship between humans and cattle might be one of the most significant partnerships in the history of life on Earth. It reshaped our genes. It reshaped our landscapes. Forests were cleared for grazing. Entire ecosystems were replaced with pasture land. The map of the modern world, which nations became powerful, which populations grew, which cultures spread, tracks uncomfortably well with which groups could digest milk. A mutation that appeared in a few thousand cattle herders in Central Europe 7,500 years ago helped determine the trajectory of human civilization. Your ability or inability to drink a glass of milk without discomfort is a 7,500-year-old artifact of survival pressure, famine, and genetic luck. So tonight, if you pour yourself a glass of milk, just know this: your body was never supposed to handle that. For 300,000 years, no adult human could. The fact that you can means somewhere in your ancestry, someone survived a famine because a cow kept them alive. And the gene that made that possible carved its way through your bloodline, generation after generation, until it reached you. You're not drinking milk because it's natural. You're drinking it because your ancestors had no other choice. And 65% of the people on this planet are still running the original code.